Hi, everyone, this is the Encyclopedia channel. This program will explain from 0 to 1 for everyone. Recommend. This book tells us that in the traditional era, the business model of a successful company is a process from 1 to n, that is, on the existing basis, copy the previous experience, and continuously expand its market influence through competition. In the internet age, a successful enterprise is a process of creating a market from scratch, from 0 to 1. So, how to go from 0 to 1 to succeed? Is there any need for competition? How to achieve a monopoly position in the industry? After watching this video, you can understand the questions. The main author of this book is Peter Thiel, the godfather of venture capital in Silicon Valley and the founder of the American version of Alipay PayPal. Peter Thiel is considered a weirdo in Silicon Valley. There is a big discrepancy between the circles, and even many viewpoints are completely opposite. But his logic has indeed achieved great success in both entrepreneurship and investment. For example, he was the first person in the world to invest in Facebook. An investment of $500,000 is now worth more than $30 billion. It's all a myth. This, from 0 to 1, can be regarded as a summary of Peter Thiel's maverick business thinking. The essence of the business world is anti-common sense. When we look at the metabolism of business theory, it is actually a process of growing increments on the basis of stock cognition. Incremental cognition is generally anti-common sense and anti-experience. Therefore, one of the important functions of our reading from 0 to 1 is to help us reflect on the possible problems of stock cognition. Specifically, this book tells us the following 3 points of view. First, the advocacy of market competition in economics misleads entrepreneurs, and competition will actually kill innovation. Second, the sign of entrepreneurial success is the establishment of monopoly, and monopoly is the only way to achieve the secret from 0 to 1. Third, if you want to achieve monopoly, you must avoid the mainstream entrepreneurial methodology and take the completely opposite path. Next, let's explain the first part. Economics advocacy of market competition misleads entrepreneurs, and competition will actually kill innovation. We all know that sufficient market competition has enabled human beings to achieve today's economic achievements, which is almost beyond doubt. However, Peter Thiel disagrees with competition. He thinks that the harm that competition brings us far outweighs the good. It's interesting to say that Peter Thiel first questioned the harm of competition from his life experience. We know that not only is there competition in the market economy, but people have been in competition throughout their entire lives. For example, the issue of American education. American children also need to cope with competition and take exams like many countries, so Peter Thiel also suffered from the pressure of exam competition in his early years. When Peter Thiel was young, he was obsessed with this kind of competition. He was admitted to the famous Stanford Law School and received scholarships every year. He was a standard good student. However, he also took a lot of exams in order to work after graduation. Although he did well in the written exam, he failed the interview. He was brooding over this matter at the time, but whenever he talked about it later, he felt chills on his back. Fortunately, it failed that year, otherwise I would not have founded PayPal later. So, from his own experience, Peter Thiel is quite critical of the dire consequences of competition. Of course, Peter Thiel would not conclude from just one of his own cases that competition is bad for innovation. As an entrepreneur and investor, Peter Thiel has discovered many pitfalls that competition brings to entrepreneurs. For example, competition will make you focus on your competitors and neglect your own development. When Google rose back then, it posed a lot of threats to Microsoft, and the two companies fought each other. Microsoft dominates the world relying on the Windows system, so Google will develop a Chrome OS to compete with you. Later, Microsoft also developed a Bing search, which is also tit-for-tat with Google search. Microsoft has an IE browser, so Google launched a Chrome browser, which defeated IE. Then, like Microsoft's Office software, it is also hard to compete with Google's Docs Office software, and Microsoft's Office tablet computer and Google's Nexus tablet computer are also competing in various ways. What is the result of these two fights? The apples that sit on the mountain and watch the tiger fight have emerged, and they have overwhelmed their advantages in one fell swoop. In 2011, both Google and Microsoft were worth much more than Apple. But in 2013, Apple's market value was $500 billion US, and Google and Microsoft combined were only more than $460 billion US. When you only have this competitor in front of you in your eyes, you don't look at the new players at all, and you end up at the door of your house. Moreover, competition can cause us to overemphasize past opportunities and blindly repeat past patterns. For example, smartphones, all mobile phones are becoming more and more similar. If you unlock with your fingerprint, I will also unlock with your fingerprint. If you use a Qualcomm 835 processor, I will use it immediately. If you build a dual camera, I will also have a dual camera immediately. Everyone is repeating a pattern, and they are all fighting for configuration. This is the old way in the past. Everyone has walked over and over again, just repeating blindly and following the trend. You might say that it's not easy for them. If you don't follow the trend or repeat the past model, then you don't have what others have, and you will soon fall behind in the competition. What can mobile phone companies do? But you have to know that imitative competition not only does not improve your competitiveness, but weakens it. One example is particularly interesting. In Silicon Valley, the innovation capital of the world, there is a peculiar phenomenon that engineers with Asperger's syndrome are more likely to become elites in Silicon Valley. What is Asperger's syndrome? In layman's terms, it means having social impairment, which is similar to autism. Why do you have an advantage in Silicon Valley when you have social barriers? The reason is simple, because these people are not so sensitive to social dynamics, they will not blindly follow the trend, and the result of not following the trend is that they can devote themselves to things like invention and computer programming, so it is easier to become an elite in Silicon Valley. And us ordinary people in the workplace are easy to be competitive with the people around us, afraid of falling behind, blindly follow the trend, and lose their core competitiveness instead. It's not over yet. Competition can be a distraction. Everyone who watches the NBA knows that the home arena of the Golden State Warriors, the most popular team in the NBA, is called the Oracle Center because the arena is sponsored by Oracle Corporation. Oracle is the world's largest enterprise software company. It is a big tree that attracts the wind. Many small software companies like to advertise that our goal is to kill Oracle. For example, there is a small company at the intersection near Oracle Corporation and set up some signs for pedestrians to see, with a sentence written on it, "You just surpassed Redwood Beach, and so did we." Redwood Beach is where Oracle is headquartered, and by saying that, we are beyond you, Oracle. With such a blatant provocation, Oracle will definitely fight back. The high-level executives of this small company have focused their energy on the war of words with Oracle. Later, internal risks were neglected and financial scandals occurred. The boss is in jail. It's all competition that distracts them. As we said earlier, Peter Thiel has also started his own business, so he has actually suffered from a lot of competition. In 1999, he released PayPal. At about the same time as him, Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla, also founded a company called X.com, which basically did the same business as PayPal, and the two competed. Then, in order to cope with competition, many employees of PayPal have to work 100 hours a week. Instead of focusing on how to improve production efficiency, everyone focuses on competitors, always thinking about how to defeat them. How crazy is a PayPal employee? He designed a bomb to blow up Musk's company. The employee took out the bomb during the meeting and showed it to his colleagues. Look, what is the structure of the bomb and what material is it made of? How to blow up Musk and the others, the sober-minded colleagues hurriedly stopped him. Competition has made employees so mad, so Peter Thiel and the others quickly realized that something was wrong, so they sat down with Musk and talked about cooperation. Merged. PayPal, which went into battle lightly, immediately developed rapidly, and this is how PayPal went public later. Speaking of this, I don't know if you have any doubts. You said that competition has so many problems, so why are economists still obsessed with market competition every day, and think that it is an ideal state for companies to compete with each other? Peter Thiel thinks this is a problem left over from history, because the idea of economists originated from physicists in the 19th century. At that time, physicists studied various models of the universe and thermal models all day long, usually a large system. The various factors in the game, after mutual game and competition, finally reach an overall equilibrium state. Economists put this set of research logic into the market to study companies and individuals, and believe that competition will balance supply and demand, and ultimately all parties will benefit. But the problem is that the business world is not static. If you use a physical model to force it up, to understand a company in this way, you think it is problematic to achieve balance through continuous competition. Peter Thiel believes that there is no such perfect equilibrium. The success of every enterprise in the real world outside of economic theory is precisely because it breaks other worlds, it does what other enterprises cannot do, and it also succeeds. It is a matter of going from 0 to 1, not that it does the same thing as other companies, and then a kind of check and balance is achieved in the competition between the two sides. The competition leads to the transformation from 1 to n, which is not the essence of business. This is the first point, the disadvantage of competition. Next, let's talk about the symbol of entrepreneurial success is the establishment of monopoly, and monopoly is the secret to achieve from 0 to 1. The second part. Since competition cannot achieve the feat of going from 0 to 1, it will not touch the ultimate goal of business, so what should we do? Peter Thiel's answer is monopoly. Let's take an example. American Airlines receive millions of passengers every year and create hundreds of billions of dollars in value. However, the average airline ticket price in 2012 was $178, which means that for each flight, the airline can only start from $100. 37 cents per passenger. The value created by Google is much less than that of airlines. Google only created a value of $50 billion in 2012, but Google made a profit of 21%, which is more than 100 times that of the airline industry. Why do you say this? This can be explained with an economic model. In fact, all economic phenomena have two different levels of competition. One is called perfect competition and the other is called monopoly. Let's look at perfect competition first. Economists say that a perfectly competitive market will reach equilibrium when supply and demand are equal. Only in this way, these companies have no market power, and the prices of their products are completely determined by the market. If there is money to be made, new companies will immediately come in to compete for profits, so the supply will rise, and the price will fall. The profits of these new companies are wiped out again. If too many companies enter, these companies will lose money, some will go bankrupt, and eventually the price will rise back to a level that can maintain profits. In perfect competition, no firm can earn much more than it costs. But this is a relatively ideal analysis. In reality, perfect competition rarely occurs, and monopoly has plenty of room for survival. A monopoly company has its own market and can set its own prices. Without competition, it can maximize its benefits. However, in the eyes of economists, a monopoly is to eliminate competitors by means or obtain a license from the government. In fact, there is another possibility here, which is to rely on innovation step by step to obtain a market monopoly under natural conditions. But it seems that the public thinks that as long as they are called monopoly, they are all the same, and they are all bad. Peter Thiel believes that as long as it is not an illegal occupation or a monopoly obtained by administrative relations, it is very valuable to consumers. Google in the previous example is an example of a valuable monopoly. Since the beginning of the 21st century, Google has left Microsoft and Yahoo far behind, and is unrivaled in the field of web search. It relies on technology to achieve unparalleled value in the search field, so it has no substantial challenges in this field, which is a naturally formed monopoly. You may say that it seems that the field where Google is located is very market-oriented, and there is no monopoly. In fact, monopoly is not monopoly, no one is willing to tell the truth. Monopolies will certainly lie in order to protect themselves. Who will show off their monopoly position? Isn't this waiting to be investigated by the government and prosecuted by the judiciary? In order to continue to obtain monopoly profits undisturbed, they will find ways to conceal the fact of monopoly, usually by exaggerating competition. If you want to say that Google has a monopoly and accounts for 68% of the search engine market, they will say that 90% of our revenue comes from advertising. Our advertising is only a little big, accounting for only 3.4% of the global advertising market. It is an inconspicuous little player. If you further position Google as a consumer technology company, it will be even more troublesome. Google is indeed developing various consumer technology products, such as self-driving cars, Android phones, and wearable devices, but the global market size of consumer technology products is tens of thousands. $1 billion, Google only accounts for 0.24% of it. How do you say it is a monopoly? So what Google defines itself as depends on what can save it trouble. Not being attacked is a monopoly. You think it does not monopolize because it has successfully diverted your attention. Contrary to Google, those companies that do not have a monopoly position often brag that they have a monopoly advantage. For example, if someone wants to open a restaurant, he will advertise that we are the first restaurant with Cambodian taste in New York, and then you tell investors that I am in an oligopoly position in the Cambodian restaurant field. Well said, but would you believe it? The reason why there is no competition is that this market does not exist at all, and consumers have no demand for Cambodian food at all. However, in order to exaggerate their position in the vertical field, many people will say that I am in an absolute monopoly position in a certain field. In fact, they just added a bunch of attributives and narrowed this field infinitely. Of course, it is only your family. Where to hit it? The creative industry also follows this principle. No screenwriter is willing to admit that his new movie script is just old wine in a new bottle. Elements blend together. This is indeed unprecedented, but it is useless. It is an artificial concept. These competitors, who are not in a monopoly position, exaggerate their uniqueness by defining their market as the intersection of various smaller markets. Although these people deceive themselves and others, they are definitely smart people. At least they have discovered that the essence of business is monopoly. The reason why everyone pursues monopoly is because monopoly means more possibilities. For example, Google is in a monopoly position. People don't worry about competition from other companies at all. It has greater autonomy to care about its employees' products and find ways to exert influence in the wider world. You can see that Google is doing unmanned driving for a while, and artificial intelligence for a while. It is easy to handle. Moreover, Google's motto is "Don't be evil," which is a brand strategy to some extent, but it also shows the determination of other companies to strictly abide by the moral bottom line. That is to say, the monopolist has the energy to do other things besides making money. But if you are not in a monopoly position, you can't do it. You can only focus on short-term interests in the competition, and it is impossible to make long-term plans for the future, so you are dying every day. For example, if you open a restaurant, in order to cope with the competition, you must control costs, and you dare not sell things too expensive. If you provide consumers with a kind of food at a very favorable price, you will make little profit yourself, then you can only pay employees very low wages, and then reduce all kinds of unnecessary expenses. If you can solve it manually, no need to buy machines, which then reduce your productivity. Even opening a high-end restaurant is not much better. For a high-end restaurant like Michelin, its star rating system is very competitive. Some French Michelin 3-star chefs will commit suicide if they lose 1 star. You see, competition can kill. Therefore, we must rely on monopoly to avoid competition in order to create a company that can create long-term value and not be influenced by immediate short-term interests. For enterprises in a monopoly position, the value judgment method you use is different. You must see the long-term value of the monopoly enterprise. If you look at the company values of the New York Times and Twitter, you will find that both companies have thousands of employees, and both provide some channels for understanding current events and news. However, in 2013, Twitter had a market value of more than 40 when it went public. Billion, more than 12 times the market capitalization of the New York Times. But before that, in 2012, the New York Times earned $133 million, while Twitter was at a loss. Then you say, why is Twitter sought after in the capital market? Is this a bubble? Of course not. Why do you like Twitter? Because of the company's future cash flow, investors believe that Twitter can obtain monopoly profits in 10 years, while the monopoly era of newspapers is actually over. The biggest difference between the technology industry and traditional industries, which may be felt by everyone, is that they usually lost money in the past few years, and they can still get high valuations. If a company can maintain cash flow for 5 or 6 years, it can maintain its own value, but as long as any company has the same strength to compete with it, it will cause the company to lose profits. Nightclubs and restaurants are typical examples. They may earn a lot of money today, but their cash flow may disappear in a few years because you may choose to spend in more fashionable places. This is a product from 1 to N, and it is easy substitute. After the technology industry forms a valuable service, it is easy to form a monopoly, because technology is continuously accumulated, and the more it accumulates, the greater the advantage. This creates a long-term value, just like the previous example of Google. Therefore, while traditional enterprises look at short-term development, technology companies need to look at longer-term things, not only to grow, but also to achieve sustainable and long-term growth. This can only be achieved by monopoly, not by competition. The above is the second point of view: innovation must rely on monopoly. Let me talk about the fact that if you want to achieve monopoly, you must avoid the mainstream entrepreneurial methodology and take the completely opposite path. The third part. After talking about the first 2 points, there is only one more practical question: how can we establish a monopoly advantage and realize the leap from 0 to 1? Peter Thiel believes that monopoly companies generally have the following characteristics: patented technology, network effects, economies of scale, and brand advantages. To build a monopolistic enterprise, we must start from those angles. Let's look at them one by one. First, look at patented technology, which means that your product is much better than others, making it impossible for others to compete with you through simple copying. For example, Google's search algorithm, which searches quickly and accurately, is what other search companies cannot do. So how good is the patented technology? Generally speaking, if your patented technology wants to have sufficient barriers, you must be more than 10 times better than these similar alternatives in order to have a real monopoly advantage. The mainstream entrepreneurial method in the market is that you must find the shortcomings of existing products on the market and then provide a better solution, so that you can succeed. But Peter Thiel firmly opposes this way of thinking that this is a way of thinking from 1 to N, which is an improved thinking. You are just a little bit better, which does not give you a monopoly position. You have to improve by more than 10 times. The most obvious way is to directly create a brand new thing. For example, before the advent of PayPal, Americans sold things online. If a customer pays by check, it may take 7 to 10 days to arrive. With PayPal, the buyer pays immediately after taking the photo, and the seller can get it immediately. Cash, let alone online operations without going to the bank, you can see that this is more than 10 times better than checks. We all know that Jobs was kicked out of Apple that year. After he returned to Apple, the first thing he did was to cut down the product line, cutting off all the various product lines of Apple at that time, leaving only 1 or 2. This is thinking from this dimension, leaving only products that can be more than 10 times better than others, and cutting off all others. The second is the network effect, which is to make a product used by more and more people. For example, Facebook. It is very meaningful for you to register a Facebook account, because it is not you who use it unilaterally, but all your friends. This is used above. For you, after you go up, you can get an online social circle, which is very useful. Of course, there is a trick in it. To make a very large network, many people come in and use it. So what's your first step? It's especially interesting here. You have to find a very small entry point. The Facebook we mentioned before, it is so big, it actually started with the students of Harvard University, and then after the students of this school finished developing it, he cut it to the students of other Ivy League universities, and then pushed it to other universities in the United States. In the end, it was pushed to the whole society outside the university and expanded step by step. Some people may have attended an MBA. In this kind of class, when it comes to the method of running a business, you are generally told to grasp the big market, because the big market is like a big ocean, and even a scoop of water in it is enough. But we have seen that startup companies that have really grown bigger are cut in from a very small point, and even seem harmless to humans and animals at the beginning, and you don't realize that it may become a behemoth. Facebook just released data 2 days ago. They already have 2 billion users worldwide. There are only 7 billion people in the world. There are 2 billion people using Facebook. It was just a small software for students in our school. Who would have imagined that it could develop so big? It must be unimaginable. This is not planned, but cut from a small point, step by step to bring out the network effect. If you say from the beginning, I want to make a product that serves 2 billion people, then it will not be done at all. The third is economies of scale. After cutting in from a small place, you need to continue to expand the scale. How to expand? Start expanding in adjacent areas first. Back then, Amazon cut in from the book market, and after selling books, they expanded to similar markets, such as selling CDs and videos, expanding step by step, continuing to increase the variety, and becoming a world-class general store. However, if you choose a point where it is not easy to expand outwards at the beginning, it will be sad. eBay is a counterexample in this regard. eBay also cut into the small market. The group was very small, and eBay quickly established a monopoly. However, eBay did not develop very well later, because it is an auction model, and auctions are more suitable for special small items, such as antiques, coins, stamps, and these things that are not commonly used in daily life. Commonly used daily necessities, people will still go to Amazon to buy, so eBay did not develop as everyone expected. That is to say, it is right for you to choose a small market to enter, but you must find a small market that can expand to a larger market, otherwise you will soon hit the ceiling. However, when it comes to scale advantages, there is another pitfall, that is, marginal costs are not considered. The stronger the monopoly is, the fixed cost of developing a product can be amortized with high sales volume. In other words, if you can achieve a large enough scale, the marginal cost will be reduced to close to zero. How can others compete with you? But for many entrepreneurs, the most fundamental reason why they cannot become monopoly enterprises is that their business models are not designed correctly. If you open a restaurant and want to have more customers, you have to hire more chefs and waiters, and expand the area of the restaurant. After the expansion, the profit is still very limited. The Microsoft engineers are different. After they have developed the system at one time, the rest is a sales problem. Every time you sell an extra copy, the cost you pay is close to zero. This is an idea of economies of scale. The fourth factor is brand advantage. Apple is now one of the most powerful brands. The design is stylish and simple, and the user experience is particularly smooth. The whole brand feels very high-end. Many companies also want to follow Apple. They spend money on advertising, open brand stores, and use luxury products, materials, and even imitate Apple's design style, but the glamour of these surfaces does not bring brand advantages. What is the most important reason? Because Apple has a complex set of patented technologies in addition to hardware and software, and more importantly, thousands of developers are developing various software for Apple mobile phones. Apple has hundreds of millions of users. The reason why these users choose Apple's platform is because there are many applications on it. These are Apple's brand advantages, and these brand advantages have consolidated Apple's monopoly position on the market. The above four elements, patented technology, network effects, economies of scale, and brand advantages, are the secrets to building a monopoly and leaping from 0 to 1. Now, let's briefly summarize. First of all, we have mentioned that economics advocacy of market competition misleads entrepreneurs. Competition does not stimulate innovation as much as we think. On the contrary, competition will make innovators only see their opponents in their eyes, start a business for winning, and no longer for value. Startups, which stifle innovation. Secondly, as we mentioned, the symbol of entrepreneurial success is the establishment of monopoly. Monopoly can liberate entrepreneurs from fierce market competition and truly use their energy to create a feat from 0 to 1. Monopoly is a common feature of excellent, innovative companies. Point. Finally, we mentioned that in order to achieve monopoly, we must avoid the mainstream entrepreneurial methodology, take the completely opposite path, polish patented technology, start small, create network effects, and gradually promote to a larger market, forming a scale effect, and gradually build a brand moat. This is the end of this episode of the show. What do you think about it differently? Welcome to leave a message to discuss with everyone. Hey, if you like our channel, please subscribe us. Haha, remember to like it.